Hello, Booktube. I'm Scott.
I'm now.
We're going back to fiction and plot. Your clowniness is just confused. It's just been silly.
You're being silly. I don't know. I'm just me.
And you're not silly.
No. Serious.
Serious. All right. This is our Friday Reads video. The astute observers out there will notice that we haven't done a Friday Reads video for approximately 3 months. And that's correct. I think we're just gonna we've tried out a few things: Friday Reads, raps, tops and bottoms, not doing anything, posting things late. Definitely don't recommend that last one. We're just gonna do Friday Reads, and then we're gonna have a regular video.
He thinks that we can do it every week.
Yeah, watch it. It'll be Wednesday Reads next week.
Sunday Reads.
Now we actually we have a schedule, a format here. Right, and the first thing we're doing with all of our Friday Reads is we're shouting out another booktuber. Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah, and this week we're going to shout out Say Kevy.
Yeah, who thanks very much for the Bewitched revival with that name. I just can't get that stupid song out of my head. And is that your intention? Is that what you've done? Did you do it on purpose? Because Jesus.
Well, Kevy is a drag queen, disabled, fat, activist, non-binary drag queen who is hilarious.
Yeah, I would have led with hilarious.
Their favourite author is Agatha Christie. They also like Toni Morrison, and they're just...
It's quality.
It's quality. If you like Agatha Christie, so like Simon, Rosie, who else likes Agatha Christie that we know?
I don't know.
There's others.
I feel like everyone likes Agatha Christie.
I mean, who doesn't like Agatha Christie? If you are the lone grump out there that doesn't like Agatha Christie...
I haven't actually read any Agatha Christie. That should be on my list of things to do.
She's good. She's a little bit of her time.
Maybe I won't read Agatha Christie.
Yeah, the original title for And Then There Were None was not very PC.
It was a bit racist, is that what you're saying?
It was more than a bit racist.
More than a bit racist.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, check out Kevy's channel. I am sure you will love them. Oh, we have a little anecdote. This is one of the reasons why we're going back to Friday Reads, isn't it? Because I think there's just so many little things that happen that I'm like, oh, I want to tell the bookish people, but it's not really worth an entire video about it, is it?
Yeah, it's nice to have a little catch up with you all every week. This week I yelled at Scott because I was on Facebook just scrolling, and this came into my news feed.
And apparently when you search for zombie porn on your wife's computer, it shows up on her Facebook results.
So now I'm getting recommended various paranormal romance fiction.
And if you don't understand why I was searching for zombie porn on Nelle's computer, we're just going to leave it there and let you just assume that's normal activity.
Go look through our previous videos and find out why my husband's ruining my life.
I think it was a quality video, by the way.
Well, I'm glad you do.
Was
it worth the endless advertising of...
It's why I searched for it on your computer and not
Clearly.
mine. I have not been advertised any zombie porn, any vampire porn,
You didn't even use an incognito window.
Yeah.
Like... Bastard.
Yeah.
Alright.
Because I wasn't trying to hide it, because I'm not ashamed that I searched for zombie porn.
What did you finish this week, Scott?
Right. I DNF'd 2 books. So
I thought we were starting with what we finished, but okay.
there's no space for DNFs, so I've finished with these books.
Okay, you're done with them.
I'm done with Murakami's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles.
Sorry, everybody. It's Friday. I'm tired.
Yeah, you gotta go to bed after this.
No, I'm gonna go and have a party.
It's lockdown again. We're not allowed to. We had this snap lockdown.
Party.
Everybody,
Circuit breaker
lockdown. Everybody's like talking about how they're finally allowed out, and like we've been like 6 months ago we were in lockdown for ages, and everybody was out, and then we were out for like 6 months and everybody's like, oh, lockdown sucks. And now everybody's getting out and we're having a circuit breaker lockdown.
7 days. It should be fine.
Yeah, unless they extend it for another 7 days. Which they
indefinitely.
Could do. Yeah, fun. Anyway, I DNF'd Murakamis The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles. It's just this magical realism nonsense where they don't create suspense because it's too absurd. Like, the guy's trying to find his cat, and he's meeting these two women that talk nonsense, and they're named Malta and Krita. Like, what is the... Like, there's nothing going on here. I mean, there's lots going on here, but I just don't care.
Yeah.
I hate that style of book, and I don't know why I insist on trying them again and again.
Because you feel dumb hating it.
You think it's just hubris?
Yes, I do. I think that you think you should be smart enough for it, and you are, but you don't enjoy it, and then you're just like, oh, I'll just give it one more try.
This will be the one that actually has a storyline that keeps me interested, so I can figure out the stuff.
Also, it's exactly the kind of visual art that you love.
Oh, if Murakami was a painter,
He'd be Salvador Dali.
I do love Salvador
And you do
Dali.
love yourself a little bit of surrealism.
Yeah, I do.
And I think you should love them, and then you don't. That's my wifely opinion.
No Longer Human by Osamu Dayazi, who, I don't know whether it was just the same tone as Murakami or what, but I just felt like I just DNF'd this book. and therefore it got DNF'd as a result. Everything I Never Told You by Celest. This was, I think, before Little Fires Everywhere. This is about a girl who has taken her own life or been murdered. Well, it's pretty obvious she's taken her own life, but the parents want to believe she's been murdered. And it's about how the parents and the siblings and everybody copes with it. It wasn't as good as Little Fires Everywhere. It just wasn't as complex. It didn't have as many themes. It wasn't as nice. It wasn't like that lovely tapestry that Little Fires was. It was just so much simpler. And you can see that it was an earlier novel from Celeste. It's still enjoyable, still good, but...
but when you do the inevitable comparison, it's lacking.
Yeah, you always tend to compare authors with their previous works, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I think of it. I think like, just read Little Fires.
So it has no value of its own.
No, it has value of its own. It is quite a similar sort of style to Little Fires, and I'll be shocked if anybody says in the comments, and now that I've said this, everybody will say this, but nobody will say I preferred Everything I Never Told You.
Go on.
Watch everybody prove me wrong. Tell me it's a superior book. It was a good book. It was enjoyable. A River in Darkness, One Man's Escape from North Korea. So this man is the son of a Korean man living in Japan and a Japanese woman. And there's that... I've read a couple of novels that have discussed this, but I'm not too sure. I haven't studied the history, but there were lots of Korean people living in Japan at around the end of the Second World War, and they were treated as like second-class citizens and quite badly. And then when North Korea became a thing, there were lots of people trying to recruit the Koreans back, and this man's dad was recruited back into North Korea. And it's about his life growing up in North Korea from quite a young age. His mum, who was Japanese, migrated to North Korea with her.
Ooh, bad call.
Completely a bad call, because this man's dad is...
A twat?
He was a complete twat to his wife in Japan and a complete angel when they were in North Korea. But... I just don't understand this lady's decision. Like, he held a knife to her throat and made her jump off a cliff. Like,
yeah.
Like, that is...
Yeah.
Anyway, his life in North Korea basically consists of him starving and being a third-class citizen, because while he was a third-class citizen in Japan because he was Korean, he was a third-class citizen in Korea because he was Japanese.
Yeah.
Right? Which is how it goes. And then it eventually tells this tale of him escaping from North Korea. As it's a memoir, that's really not a spoiler, because he's not writing it from within North Korea, especially when with what he's saying about the government. Yeah. That was quite a good book. I learned stuff. I enjoyed it. So I do recommend it.
Yeah.
Then I read The Approach by Avavind. That is a short story. There is a video up about that, which is related to the zombie porn.
Next.
And we'll move on there. Then I read The White Tiger by...
Oh, I've read this one.
Avinda Adiga. Is that how it's pronounced?
Close.
Aravinda Adiga. This is the story of a man who goes into business for himself after he has been a domestic servant to the upper castes of Indian society. It's about the politics amongst... Is servants the right word? Yeah, politics amongst other domestic servants. He's a driver for this family, and it's about class divide and how he is treated, and what he does to himself, with himself, in order to become a businessman. And it is a reflection of how India works with corruption. And I would argue that India is a reflection of how everybody else works with corruption. It's just a little bit few less mirrors.
Yeah. This was one of the first things that I read that sort of half introduced me to the idea of the Indian caste system, which is so much more formal than a lot of sort of class stratification, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I remember being very... it was a bit of a rabbit hole for me in that aspect. I remember quite enjoying this book, but ultimately being surprised that it won a Booker Prize.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised it won the Booker. I thought it was good. It was hilarious.
It was totally funny.
That was my favourite bit. It made me laugh, the satire, and it was good. It ultimately was a good book.
Yeah. I just not...
It wasn't a great book. It was a good book.
Do you know, I think the thing is, I'm going to be all snobby and say, I think it wasn't very literary. I think that was the thing that really surprised me. Like, it was good. It was well done. It was a good story. It was funny. It was well composed, well structured. The writing was fine. It just wasn't... You know what I mean? That next level of...
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a number of years since I've read it. But...
I thought it had a fair bit of... I mean, it wasn't the most literary, but I thought it had enough in there. Human Acts by Han Kan. This is about some demonstrations that happened in 1980 in Korea. Some student demonstrations. Now, I don't know the history of Korea. I don't actually know what's going on here. It sounds very reminiscent of Tiananmen Square. We've got, like, the military has taken over, and these students are just being brutalized. This is not so much a short story, it's just a continual account of the horrible things people do under military control to their own citizens. Just like absolute horrible act after horrible act with nothing else in between, really. And the acts are so completely different, from like forcing ants onto somebody's genitals to eat them, to blacklisting them from a job so that they can't work. Like, just so completely different.
Yeah.
And just destroying these students' lives over over a demonstration that I didn't understand, because I didn't know the history of Korea well enough.
Yeah.
This was just so one note right up until the very end, when it was Kang decided to elevate it by making a point about something, and I don't feel like I want to say what that point is because I feel like that's a spoiler. But I feel like the ending really elevated this book an incredible amount. But you just have to get through so much brutality.
Awesome.
Before you get to the end.
Sounds like a Scott book.
I much preferred The Vegetarian.
Okay.
By her. The characters were really weak in this. It was really just, everybody was just a meat puppet to the violence of the system, and that I think is actually the point of the writing. I think that's deliberate, but it doesn't make it the most enjoyable book.
Sounds like it's probably not supposed to be super enjoyable.
Yeah, no,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
and the last one I finished this week is Girls Burn Bighter by Shobha. Now this was
we haven't talked about it yet.
This is one of your favourites from.
It was a good one. It was one that I think it was the last book I read last year.
Yeah. So this tells the story of two girls who are friends in India, in a small town in India, and they sort of separate and go their separate ways. And one of them is married, and they try and track each other down. And this is just the brutality that their life is, trying to track each other down, really.
Yeah, I think it's a sort of a bit of a litany of all the horrible shit that can happen to you if you're a woman in India.
Yeah. It really pointed out how your destiny is not in your own hands. Like, everything that happened to these women was believable, but you can see that, like, what Shobha could have done is had more characters and have them all experience the different things, but
instead these poor two girls just got bombarded with all the things.
Yeah, like they had a little bit of bad luck and then a little bit more bad luck, and ultimately...
But I think that's how, like, particularly when you're talking about things that happen to people in poverty, it does just snowball like that.
It does, and to be honest, I did a little bit of trouble saying it without spoiling it, but once the first bad thing happened, it was a little bit hard to see how the next bad thing couldn't happen.
Yeah.
Now, you see actually when you have choice. Now, I want to ask, there are two choices as if you're characters.
Only one choice. It's clearly horrible.
Yeah, that's the one that's about.
That's the thing I don't accept that. It's so horrible.
So,
never even along. I don't do anything happen.
How do you explain this? This one?
This is connection button. Do you live in Do you live in the
I think really cheap.
Yeah.
I question how much interest she knew she had, how much she believed she had lost in that life. I don't know that because I don't know, there's one book, it's years, another choice was made just that's really cool. Yeah, so, geez, I've read some miserable books this week, haven't I?
You have. Is that it? Are you done?
That is it.
So I finished this week. The first book I finished this week was Saltwater by Jessica Andrews. I listened to this on Audible, which was a thoroughly enjoyable experience because it just reminded me of Ange every day.
Because of a similar accent.
Because it was a similar accent, and that made me happy. I really liked Saltwater. It's sort of a fragmented depiction of a woman's life and particular focus on her relationship with her mother. It's a bit of a coming of age shtick. It's very tied to time and place, ideas of the nature of home and the nature of identity and etc. I really liked the style. I just thought it was lovely. It was lovely. I found it a little bit tricky to read because I don't have the best relationship with my mother, so...
It was definitely glorifying that relationship, wasn't it?
There's sort of like this big emphasis on like the visceral nature of being connected to your mother, and I don't. For me, that's not a believable thing because that's not how I feel about mine. Um, but I am aware that my relationship is not the norm. Um, Other than that, it was a beautifully enjoyable book, and I would probably just say if you have weird mother relationship, then content warning, I guess.
I read this earlier in the year. I think it's a truly remarkable novel.
It's probably one of the best things I've read all year. Like it was.
Yeah.
I cannot understate how beautifully it was written.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is not talked about more. This is just an incredible novel.
Yeah. It was very evocative as far as like putting you in places and conjuring scenes and smells and all that sort of stuff, and lots of little things. Just it was the central character had all sorts of trauma, but it wasn't like bleak. It was, do you know what I mean? Like it wasn't an overwhelmingly dismal picture of life. It was just it was just life.
It was a warts and all portrait, wasn't it?
Like, yeah, but it was, done with an artist's brush, and so you were looking at the fucking sunset instead of looking at her dad puking in the gutter, whatever it was. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was...
Yeah.
It was beautifully constructed. I really enjoyed it. I took quite a long time to listen to it, and it's probably one of those ones that I wouldn't mind getting a hold of in physical copy now that I've read it on audio.
I think this is probably one of those ones which is exactly worth that, because I think that you will have a different experience with the way you read it, and I think they'll both be lovely.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so you've said you read 4 books. What are your other 3?
The next one I finished was The House in the Cerulean Sea, which...
Oh, I finished that one this week too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you finished it after me.
It's not on my Goodreads. What's going on?
I don't know. We buddy read this with Danny and sped through it because it's quite a quick book to read. It was such a beautiful, lighthearted, lovey, warm place to be in contrast to everything else I read this week. It was just so nice. Everyone raves about it. It's such a simple story.
I didn't expect to like this one going into it, and it just won me over.
Because it's funny.
Yeah, if you can make me laugh, you go a long way. But it is such a lovely story too.
And endearing. All the characters are endearing. There's lots of kid characters. Funny, precocious children is the way to Scott's heart, if you don't know.
That's it. I do enjoy precocious child humour.
Yeah.
Especially when the children have the power and threaten to murder the adults.
It's just so good, and it was such a joy and such a nice break, I guess.
If you liked, there was a BBC comedy show, Outnumbered, a few years ago, about a decade ago, about 2 parents raising 3 kids, and it was like an improv.
Karen.
Yeah, if you liked Karen from that show, who was basically a 4-year-old lawyer.
She was just gold. She was so gold.
Yeah, but that is, if you like that show, you will like...
I think there are so many things to like about House in the Cerulean Sea, and everyone raved about it, and I was really resistant because I wasn't sure what age group it was written for. To be honest, I'm still not sure what age group it was written for. It's got a queer romance, and I'm not sure they put romance in middle grade books, but it's so easy to read you could give it to a 5-year-old. Like, it's just a straightforward story.
It's a family book, you know?
Yeah, but it was just, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The next book I read, I'm not going to crap on too much about because it's part of a bit of an ongoing project. But I did finish A Lesson Before Dying by Ernest J. Gaines. Why do they only put one name on the side? This book made me feel all the feelings, but mostly the angry.
That's all you got to say. I know.
That's really it.
What's your last book?
My last book made me feel all the feelings. And I just finished it tonight on the way home from work. And I just hate my fucking government. I listened to No Friend But the Mountain by... What's his name?
Behrouz Boochani.
and my soul has been squashed. Australia's refugee laws are racist, they are criminal, they are just disgustingly inhumane and torturous. And while Manus Island prison has been closed down, these people are still not being served justice. It's just...
Yeah, we have bipartisan monsters in control of our country.
There is no option to vote for a party who will stop this in our country. No matter who you vote for, they all have the policy to continue this atrocity. It's fucking rank.
I mean, you could vote for the Greens, but they won't get in power. So you can vote for the Greens, but it doesn't do anything.
Exactly. Unless everyone votes for the Greens, then we're continuing this bullshit. Anyway, the book is a masterpiece. I absolutely will be buying this in text format. It is literary. Just the idea that something so perfectly poetic and literal and symbolism, all the things all the time, was smuggled out of a prison in text messages in Farsi and then collaboratively translated is a mind-blowing feat. And this man he's just incredible. He's just incredible. And the end result is poignant. It is heartbreaking. Oh, literally the best thing I've read all year.
It's so beautiful, and it's something that I think I said when I read it that I would be worried if non-Australians read it, they might not appreciate the politics of it. But I think that increasingly we're seeing Australia's policies enacted around the world as well.
I think not only will they appreciate the politics of it, but I think they'll appreciate the universality of it. The last sort of discussion about the border industrial complex really made me sort of think about it again from a Trump's wall perspective. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not an Australian issue, and while it's a particularly Australian issue in the sense that I think our country has fucking perfected the torture of this, we're not the only white people doing it. There were a couple of moments where I felt like I was taken out of it. There's a little bit of fat phobia going on, and I found that a little bit personally confronting just because I'm fat. Not as an overall judgment against the book, because in the context of starving people, I think fat phobia often actually makes sense. I'm not saying please be bigoted. I'm just saying that if you're starving, then a person with a larger body who's clearly had more to eat than you is a physical manifestation of your hunger and oppression. So that took me out of it a couple of times, and there's a couple of little misogynistic bits. Again, similar sort of scenario, like it makes sense within the context of the book, but did take me out of it for a moment. And those moments were the first time that I've ever come across in an audiobook that I wished I had been reading a physical book, because I would have just walked away for 5 minutes and gotten myself together and come back to it afresh, and instead I missed bits. That sort of took me out a little bit of the audio and sort of showed me my own limitations with reading this way. But also, it's clearly a very complex text. The discussion of Persian poetry with the emphasis on long sentences, and that was discussed early on in the translator's notes, and how they chose to represent those long sentences through meter alliteration, rhyming, and all that sort of stuff. I feel like I could have gotten more out of it if I'd seen the words on the page. I might be wrong, but it's well worth exploring. Even if I only get exactly out of it what I got the first time, it's worth a reread. So I think that will go on my list of... No, that's on my list of things I want to reread in the next 12 months. It's just an astounding accomplishment and a horrifying truth.
And the report came out this week. $1.3 billion was the size of the contract for the security forces on Manus per year, and it was an uncontested
Tender.
So that's $1.3 billion. So it's happening because somebody's giving a good kickback.
Yeah.
Which
it's a border industrial complex. Like, it's all capitalism gone capitalist.
Yeah. All right. Currently reading, we're up to...
Ooh, everyone's going to laugh at me. I'm halfway through passing. I read like the first half in whatever short sitting, and then every night this week I've picked it up and fallen asleep with it on my face. So
you got like a sentencing gun type.
That's really what's happened. So I'm halfway through passing. That's all I've got on the go at the moment.
Oh really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought you had the parcel on the go too.
No, I haven't actually started that yet.
Oh. Well, that's our a book club book, and I'm planning on trying to finish that this weekend, I hope. So that is so far so good. And then the last one, again, quite a short one that I'm halfway through, is Shut Up, You're Pretty.
I think this week I will probably pick up the parcel. I had planned to get my hands on a copy of The Kingdoms this weekend, but we're in lockdown, so I can't just stroll into a bookstore and pick up the new release, which has ruined my plans.
I finished work earlier than you today for the first time this week, and I was going to go to the bookshop and buy the copy and present it to you. And when I realised that the lockdown had started today and not tomorrow, I was like, oh no, why would you do that to me?
But
yeah,
such is life. We'll just have to not have that till next week or something. I don't know. It'll mean I focus on the parcel and get that finished this weekend, and hopefully pick up something, maybe something Asian before the end of the month.
You don't long. Yeah. Well, this video's gone on for so long.
It's because we missed you.
It is. Community question. I have two. Firstly, at the start of this, we are doing a shout out, and I'd like to know what information you all want about shout outs.
Yeah, what do you need to know to make you go and click on someone that we're saying go and look at? Or do you just go and look at everyone we mention? Or everyone mentions? Because I think that's what we do. And then we make our mind up from there, I think. Unless someone says something that makes me think, oh, that's definitely not our thing.
I don't really have a system. I don't actually know what makes me click on people.
What's your question 2?
Question number 2. So Nelle and I are planning a little booktube community event thing. Not a readathon, but kind of like a readathon, but no reading is involved. I would like to know who would like to co-host with us.
Ooh. It's a bit silly, and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to know more about our sneaky booktube event and co-hosting, then hit us up in the Instagram DMs or shoot us an email.
Or Voxer.
Yeah.
Don't shoot us an email. Don't shoot us.
No, totally do. I just discovered that we have an inbox.
Don't shoot us an email. I just saw that our inbox included a buddy read request that was 8 weeks old.
Oh my god.
Do
Sorry!
not email us. Just stop with the email. Voxer or Instagram. We will, or Facebook comments, YouTube comments. That's the media we're on now.
Okay. I love you.
This is a Long Friday Reads.
Bye.
Bye-bye.